if I told you that the greatest mystery behind the GVE London supercar scandal isn't a missing Ferrari, a vanished £1.8 million, or even the founder, David Rye, but a man whose name barely made the headlines, yet who may have held the keys to the entire empire? His name is George Gedu, and while the world points fingers, issues angry demands, and pores over endless Companies House filings, George remains an enigma. Ever-present, yet almost invisible, always in the thick of the action, but never the main character in the official narrative. To those on the inside, he wasn't just a salesman, he was the heartbeat of GVE's extraordinary sales operation. To others, he was the ultimate fixer, the man you went to when you needed a deal pushed through, a problem made to disappear, or a client reassured. But when GVE London came crashing down in the summer of 2025, leaving furious owners without their cars, millions in debt unaccounted for, and the supercar world in turmoil, one question dominated private WhatsApp groups, industry forums, and late-night phone calls. Where is George Gedu? What did he know, and when did he know it? Was he just another cog in a vast failing machine, or was his role far more central to both the rise and the catastrophic fall of one of Britain's most glamorous supercar dealerships? In this exclusive investigation, we go far beyond the sensational headlines. We'll piece together the little-known story of George Gedu, exploring how he helped build GVE's sales juggernaut, why his name is whispered with awe or suspicion, and what his journey reveals about the dark underbelly of the UK supercar trade. Along the way, we'll draw shocking parallels to other high-profile scandals and unpack the devastating impact this collapse has left on real people, owners, employees, and the luxury car industry itself. Before GVE London became a name synonymous with scandal, it was for a time the stuff of supercar dreams. Its ascent was as improbable as it was dazzling. A small operation, reborn from the ashes of Global Vehicle Exports London Limited in 2009, transformed into a hub where Lamborghinis and Ferraris paraded in and out with breathless regularity. But none of this could have happened without the guiding hands behind the scenes, and no hand was steadier or more quietly influential than that of George Gedu. Unlike the charismatic founder David Rye, whose public persona attracted headlines and high-rolling clients, George was the strategist. Those who worked alongside him describe a man with almost a forensic understanding of the market. He anticipated trends, managed relationships with obsessive precision, and was trusted implicitly by both sellers and buyers. If Rye was the face of GVE, George was its mind, the architect of its sale or return powerhouse, an arrangement that lured owners of rare supercars into handing over their prized vehicles in exchange for promises of fast, lucrative sales. Behind closed doors, it was George who orchestrated the delicate dance of matching buyer to seller, balancing massive sums of money with the sort of charm and subtlety that only comes from years in the game. His ability to calm nerves and close deals became legend. Some former clients recall late-night calls where George would personally reassure them about a delayed payment or offer creative solutions when a transaction risked collapse. Staff speak of him as a mentor, demanding but fair, and always one step ahead. But with rapid success came dangerous complexity. As GVE expanded, so did its obligations, its exposure, and, unbeknownst to many, its vulnerabilities. While the showroom lights shone bright, cracks began to appear beneath the surface, and through it all, George continued to hold court, quietly running the machine even as storm clouds gathered on the horizon. What happens when the man who kept the deals flowing faces pressures even he can't control? In the next chapter, we lift the lid on the sales machine George built and the hidden risks that would ultimately prove its undoing. To truly understand the magnitude of the GVE London disaster, you have to appreciate the extraordinary sales engine that powered it. At the heart of this empire was the sale or return model, an approach that made GVE both irresistible and, as time would reveal, incredibly exposed. Under George Gedu's stewardship, this system didn't just run efficiently, it became the envy of rival dealerships and the talk of the UK supercar scene. The sale or return arrangement was deceptively simple. High net worth individuals and collectors would entrust their multi-million-pound vehicles to GVE, confident that George and his team would sell them for top price, handle every detail, and remit the proceeds, minus a generous commission, quickly and smoothly. For a while, it was a win-win. Sellers got their cash without the headache of dealing with buyers, Buyers enjoyed a curated selection of rare, perfectly presented vehicles, all stamped with GVE's badge of credibility. It was George who made this model sing. His talent for building trust was legendary, and his phone was a lifeline for anxious clients with seven-figure investments at stake. George's skill lay not just in closing deals, but in keeping the wheels turning even when the market stuttered, or when a particular deal threatened to go off track. He was, in many ways, the reassuring voice in a high-risk business that thrived on confidence and reputation. But therein lay the flaw. As GVE's reputation soared, so did the number and value of cars entrusted to it. At one point, it's estimated that over 80% of all inventory was on sale or return terms. The sums became staggering, the logistics ever more tangled, and the margin for error vanished. Beneath the surface, the very system that had propelled GVE's meteoric rise was creating a dangerous web of obligations and exposures. It was a high-wire act, dazzling from the outside but desperately fragile. As the stakes soared ever higher, the sales machine began to show signs of strain. In the next section, we examine the cracks that started to appear and the moments when even George's steady hand could not avert disaster. It was only a matter of time before the illusion of invincibility shattered. For months, murmurs circled among owners and insiders, delays in payments, unexplained hold-ups in returning vehicles, mounting rumours of deals gone awry. Beneath the glossy veneer of GVE London's showroom, the delicate balance that George Gedu had so masterfully maintained was coming undone. The first public signs were almost imperceptible, an angry social media post here, a hushed complaint there. But within industry circles, the warning lights were blinding. Some consigners waited far longer than usual for funds to arrive, and a few began to speak openly of broken promises. Even George's legendary problem-solving could not soothe every fear. The scale of the exposure became increasingly impossible to ignore. Cars worth millions in limbo, legal threats stacking up, and the sale or return model, once the pride of the operation, now exposed as a fatal flaw. It was in this chaos that George's role became most ambiguous. To some, he remained a voice of reason, a man doing his best under impossible circumstances, desperately trying to mediate between anxious owners and a company running out of time. To others, he appeared as the final barrier between clients and disaster, holding back the truth for as long as he could, perhaps even too long. Did he see the collapse coming? Was he kept in the dark, or was he simply out of options, caught in a spiral that no one could control? When the inevitable happened, the notice of intention to appoint administrators in August 2025, the revelation of at least £1.8 million in missing payments, the cascade of furious claims, George Gedu was no longer at the front lines. His silence spoke volumes. The man who had built so many bridges was suddenly unreachable, leaving customers, colleagues and industry watchers to debate. Was he a casualty of GVE's demise, or had he played a deeper, more central role than anyone realized? But as shocking as GVE's downfall was, it was far from the first time Britain's luxury car scene had been rocked by scandal. In the next part, we pull back the curtain on other notorious supercar collapses and how the lessons of the past make GVE's story even more extraordinary. While the GVE London scandal may seem singular in its scale and drama, it is in truth part of a troubling lineage of collapses that have shaken Britain's high-end automotive world. The allure of the sale or return model, fast money, low risk for the dealer, a no-hassle experience for sellers, has tempted other luxury dealerships down similarly perilous paths. For those who have followed the market, names like Romans International, Amari, and even certain infamous episodes from Wilson & Co. stir memories of headline-grabbing collapses, shattered reputations, and devastated clients. What sets GVE apart is not just the headline figure of £1.8 million missing, but the sheer scale and reach of its operations. At their peak, few could match GVE's turnover or its presence in the supercar scene, thanks in no small part to the credibility that George Gedu and his team painstakingly built. Yet the fatal vulnerabilities were strikingly similar to those in previous scandals: overexposure to consigned vehicles, over-reliance on trust and verbal agreements, and a dangerous lack of financial safeguards when the market hit turbulence. Looking back, some industry veterans argue that every major collapse follows the same pattern: Glamour masking unsustainable risk, charismatic leaders reassuring clients, insiders whispering of trouble long before the public catch wind. GVE's difference was the speed and secrecy with which everything unraveled, and the depth of personal relationships that bound so many to its fate. Still, in each of these cases, the fallout has been the same. Years of legal wrangling, clients fighting to recover what they can, and a chilling effect on trust across the market. The GVE affair has only amplified these anxieties, creating new fears about who to trust and how easily reputations can be lost overnight. But the consequences of the GVE collapse ripple far beyond the courtroom. In the final part, we uncover the real-world impact on clients, employees, and the very fabric of Britain's luxury car scene, and what lessons must now be learned to prevent the next disaster.
The collapse of GVE London was not just another footnote in the long history of supercar scandals. For those caught in its wake, the damage was devastating and deeply personal. Owners who had entrusted their prized Lamborghinis, Ferraris and Porsches to the company woke to find both their cars and their money gone, sometimes with little more than a vague promise that things would be sorted soon. Some lost faith in the entire process of consignment, vowing never again to hand over their assets without ironclad guarantees. But it wasn't just the owners who suffered. Staff members, many of whom had worked alongside George Gedu for years, suddenly found themselves out of a job, their reputations questioned by association. Trusted industry partners lost confidence, and even rival dealerships began fielding anxious calls from would-be consigners seeking reassurance. The legal and financial fallout dragged on, consuming resources, time, and emotional energy from all sides. The wider impact has rippled through the luxury car market, chilling the once heady trade in rare and exotic vehicles. Buyers are more wary, sellers are more demanding, and the old reliance on trust and handshake deals has been replaced by a hard-edged caution. Regulatory bodies have been forced to confront their own failings, with calls for tighter oversight and clearer protections for clients. It is a reckoning not just for one company, but for an entire ecosystem built on confidence, image, and the subtle dance of high-value transactions. For all the headlines and speculation, one truth remains. The human cost is the hardest to quantify. Behind every lawsuit, every abandoned showroom, and every unanswered phone call, there are stories of trust broken, livelihoods lost, and dreams derailed. And as the dust settles, a final question lingers for every owner, dealer and fan of the supercar world. Will the lessons of GVE London be heeded? Or is the next disaster already waiting in the wings, hiding perhaps in the shadows cast by yet another trusted name?